I know it's a great. I came across your website. I was just scrolling like online. I was like, this seems like a really nice business, and we'd love to find out more.
Thank you. Yay, SEO. Something's working then. I just built a new website a couple of months ago, so you caught me at the right time.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, it looks really good. Like the website is like perfectly like laid out, and
Thank you.
yeah.
I
So
appreciate it.
what we were wondering, like, what is your business exactly?
Mhm.
Golden Consulting.
Golden Consulting. So I started my company a year and a half ago, and my background is in operations management. So for 6 years, I was the operations manager for Netty Real Estate, which is a commercial real estate company. So they do like investment, development, renting real estate, selling real estate in the commercial zone. So offices, warehouse, that kind of thing. And so when I left that company, at first, when I started my own company, I decided to be an operations manager for hire and offer those, business operations skills to other small businesses. And then I kind of merged into corporate events because I found that it used my skills really similarly. And was a lot of fun. So I've been doing a lot of conferences and workshops, open houses, things like that for businesses specifically. So it merges my operations with the events. And then with COVID, things went online. So now I'm primarily doing online events. And I've kind of become an expert in the area in taking events that are usually in person and making them really effective in an online environment. So it's been a progression. And I would say that the progression isn't over for my business. I purposely did a consulting name. I have an LLC, so that I could pivot and change, and as I grow and change as a person and adapt my business to what I want it to be. So I'm in a really unique position where I'm a solopreneur. I don't have any employees right now. I'm able to really change as I like. So I would say there's an undercurrent of operations management in my business, which is basically just the day-to-day work you put into a business, right? It can be different for every business, but it can be an element of bookkeeping, it can be marketing, it can be how do we just manage our clients, how do we manage our employees, all those kind of tiddly things that go into a business are really things I understand and things I enjoy, those detail oriented things that I think a lot of, especially small business owners, don't feel like they're really equipped to do. I think a lot of business owners say, well, I want to be a painter, I want to be a contractor, I want to do woodworking, but to run a business, you can't just do your trade. You really have to manage what a business is. So not to get too detailed, but, creating the LLC and managing it, managing your taxes and your files and things like we used to set up this meeting, like Calendly and Google Calendar and Zoom. And, more so, even especially with COVID, more technological skills that you have to run a business. So I would say that overall, what I do is I help business owners fill in those gaps in knowledge that they don't have.
My next question is, what inspired you to start your business?
Freedom, 100% freedom. I was incredibly overworked at my other job before I started my business. I worked till midnight, 3 nights a week. I learned so much. It was just a crash course in running a company. But at a certain point, I said, all right, I think I've learned everything I need to get out of this experience. And I think I'm ready to apply this in a way that feels good to me, where I'm not being dictated to, where I'm not being given work, where I'm choosing the clients that I work with and the work that I do. So it was really about, at first about taking a break, and then it became about, I'm really good at this. People are liking what I'm offering, and they're calling me and they need my help. And I have something to offer the world and this local community. So that was like the first instinct, was just to be able to control my time better.
Right. My next question is, who are the customers that you cater to? And
who are the customers I cater to? So I work primarily with small businesses and nonprofits. So I like working with business owners. So my customers are not the person on the street, walking into my store, right? I like working with people who are running businesses. They could be owners or they could be managers. That's possible too. They could be operations managers in their own right. And if I were to really drill down and say, who do I love working with? I really love working with really inspired entrepreneurs, people who are passionate and creative and smart and interesting. And they say, I want to put on this amazing event, but I know it's not in my wheelhouse. I need another really inspired, creative, interesting person to work with. And those are the kind of people that really recognize what I do and appreciate what I do well. So that's like the perfect ideal person, is someone who is pretty tech savvy, can jump on a Zoom call with me, can send me the files I need to get the job done, who can really roll with me and keep up with me. That's really the perfect client, and they happen to be a business owner primarily.
Okay. And what would you say to, for example, like a college, for a graduate student who wants to start their business, and they reached out to you? Would you help them find those sources, or how would you help them?
I would be happy to. Yeah, I've learned so much, and when you feel like you finally get it, you just want to share it with the world.
Yeah.
I am extremely active in the business community, in networking. I'm a part of Women Business Owners Network, Center for Women in Enterprise, BNI, which is like a referral networking group. It's across the world, actually. And there's 12 chapters in Vermont. And I am currently president of the highest ranking BNI chapter in Vermont. And so the bedrock of my business from the very beginning really has been networking. And who do I know? And if I help you, will you help me? And, that collaboration with other business owners. So I would be happy to work with a grad student. I actually had someone reach out to me who was in college a couple of years ago and said, can I intern for you? I want to be a business owner. And that was kind of funny to me, because I said, well, what do you want to do for your business? So that's actually probably my first advice to someone who's starting out, because I think a lot of people say, I want that freedom. I want to work for myself. But you need to have skills first. You kind of need to cut your teeth. You kind of need to pay your dues a little bit. That's my perspective anyway. So I think that speaking to someone like me who has been there and kind of started from scratch could be really beneficial to a student who's just trying to find their way. And also, being that I have an operations background, I really understand the nitty gritty. So I won't say, just go out there and just do it, just crowdfund. No, that's not actually how you start a business, in my opinion. I think you need to figure out, what do I have that's unique to offer? And how do I market and position that? And I need to create an LLC. I need to have a name. I mean, there's a lot of basics you have to figure out first before you start a company. And it's okay if you're a solopreneur and it's just you and you change and grow, and that's perfectly fine. But there are still basic functions that a business has to have to be successful. And a lot of that is plugging into your local community and finding that support, because you really can't do it on your own, and you don't have to.
Right.
So.
Okay, and my last question is, how did you incorporate the business model canvas and the value proposition when building your business?
So I am familiar with the business model canvas. I've done some work with SCORE. I don't know what value proposition means in terms of what you're talking about for your class, but my understanding is the business model canvas is like a business plan, only really stripped down and given more of like a visual element. And so I did that exercise. But I have to admit that I haven't really run my business based on a business plan in the traditional sense of, these are the figures I expect to create. These are, usually in a business plan, you really have solid projections for your future. And even if I had done one, I think COVID would have blown it way out of the water. Everything changed completely.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's really valuable to set milestones and set goals so that you at least have an idea of what you're reaching for. So I would say the role of planning in my business has been relatively theoretical and then adjusting over time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Jack, you're next for your question.
Yeah, so when you first started your business and you were sort of surveying maybe potential other businesses that compete with you, how would you say that you knew that your business could potentially like stand out, and like what are those attributes that would make you stand out?
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I did survey and I did attend a lot of networking events, and there wasn't really anyone doing what I was doing, which was scary, because I said, well, maybe it's not something people need if no one's doing it. But I would say that if you're going to undergo the process of evaluating that, I would just caution you to say that people you think are competition are 99% of the time collaborators. I truly believe, maybe it's the Vermont community, maybe it's because we're all so tight and we all take care of each other here, that I have not met one person who I've met lots of people who I thought initially, this person's kind of stepping on my game. They're kind of veering into my lane here. And I meet them and talk to them and realize they have their own set of experiences that are so different from mine. And they offer actually something really different. And their ideal client is actually a really different person from mine. And I end up finding they're the best partners for collaboration. So I would encourage you to think outside the box when it comes to competition. And I understand from like an educational standpoint, it makes absolute sense that your teachers would say, identify who your competition is and figure out how you are different from them. And that's really important. But I would take it a step further and also say, how can I collaborate with these people? That's next level. And that's where the special sauce is, I think.
Yeah. You sort of talked about COVID a bit ago, but like, how would you say the difference between like the online events and like the consulting that you do online is like especially different compared to pre-COVID?
It is different in a really exciting way. I think people were starting to embrace technology, like using Zoom for meetings, a little bit, but people were still working out of their offices versus their homes. I think that COVID has awoken me in my business. I think it has made me more of an asset to people than ever before, because I pick up technology very quickly. It's just a skill that I have. And so my very first conference, it said, okay, we have 3 weeks to pivot. We're moving our conference, which was in person, online. I said, yes, you're speaking my language. So I think I want to be respectful that there are a lot of people who are really struggling, but there are also a lot of people who are in a good position to help people who are struggling. People like myself, who I like to see the bigger picture. I would also say that everyone moving to online meetings instead of in-person meetings has really streamlined my schedule. It's made me a lot more efficient. So things like Calendly, where I just send you a link and you just sign up for a meeting with me. I mean, that's an innovation that is born of a crisis, in a sense. So I would say it's been a positive thing for me. Not positive in that I don't suffer like everyone else to see people in pain. Like that's a different question. But in terms of my business, I think it's actually made my business more challenging and more fun.
Okay. And this question is going to be a bit hard to answer because I didn't know your company was 1.5 years old. I said, going back to like your earliest recollection of like what Golden Consulting was, and then comparing it to now, how has it like evolved?
I mean, I know it hasn't been very long, but it actually has evolved. It definitely has. My very, very first thought, and this was advice given to me by a friend. I said, I'm going to be leaving my job. I can't do this stress anymore. But I don't know what I want to do next. What should I do? And he said, start an LLC. And I said, to do what? And he said, even if you do nothing, it looks like you did something. So that was like the actual very first thing. But because I am me and I'm very motivated, I couldn't just create a company. I was like, right, let's actually do something with this. This is real potential. And so I guess the first formulation of my business was to be an operations manager for hire, to have business owners hire me to help them streamline their operations and make them more efficient in their businesses. That was the first iteration. And then now I'm focusing primarily on corporate events. So conferences, workshops, open houses, anything dealing with a business owner who wants to do some kind of a presentation or event. So really, it actually has changed a lot very quickly.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
It's good to know. Miles is next, I think.
Sure. Do you have any business partners?
I have business collaborators, but I do not have partners as in they are co-owners of my company.
Okay, so you work with other people?
A lot.
Okay, and why are they important to work with other people?
Oh gosh, it's so important because you can't know everything and other people bring a different energy to your work. So it's more fun. That's the first thing. You know, I don't want to be an island doing my work, but you learn from every person you work with and from every project you do. So I would say working with other people has fast forwarded the development of my business. And being that I am in BNI and I really subscribe to this giver's gain mentality. I mean, you might look into BNI at some point because it's really fascinating. You can just jump in and visit chapters on Zoom. It doesn't cost anything, obviously. It might be really fascinating for you in your exploration of this topic. But I have gotten referrals from people I've collaborated with. We've worked on the same projects together. One example is a woman who does destination events and kind of like yoga retreats and things like that, weddings. And she's just opening up my world because now I can offer destination events in the future when, you know, we're back in person to my clients in a way that I wasn't equipped to before. So really every person I collaborate with opens up my world a little bit.
Right. And how do you keep a good customer relationship? How do you keep them coming back to you for more help?
Good communication is very important. Setting the expectations of the relationship. So with every single client, I have a contract. I don't care if I'm giving you 1 hour of my time. You're going to sign a contract with me that outlines the agreement and how it gets terminated if we choose, how payment works. Everything should be very clear from the beginning. So communication is very important. And then also being, what's the word? Beyond just being a good communicator, also being very responsible to them and their needs. So on a little micro level taste of that, I respond to all emails within 24 hours, always. Even if I'm saying, I can't quite answer this question yet, I'll get back to you, you know, just making sure that they see you and that they know you're working on their behalf and really making them feel like they're number one is really important. And I think also, this seems obvious, but being nice, like just being a good person and being a real person with them makes a lot of difference. I don't see them as just another customer. I see them as a collaborator in their own right. Even though they're a client of mine, I really consider our relationship to be a collaboration. And I think that shines through.
And do you ever have to turn people away?
Yes.
You do? What sorts out the people you have to turn away from people you want to help?
Primarily my instincts, actually. You know, that feeling I get when we talk about their project and I'm like, oh, this doesn't sound like fun. Yeah, do you ever get that feeling where it's like, you probably should do something. It's probably good for you, but you're like, that doesn't sound like fun at all. I just don't feel like even picking up the pen. Listening to my instincts and everyone wants to pay you for your time, but your time is more valuable than just money. It's also your energy. So I focus as a solopreneur and now having absolute control over my time. I have to be really careful of those who are trying to kind of pull that control back from me and demand from me something that I'm not willing to give. So it comes down to being honest and listening to my instincts and identifying what's important to me. But I've definitely had to turn away clients that on the surface seemed like a good fit. Like the tough part is sometimes I'm a really good fit for people, but they're not a good fit for me. unfortunately. You know, I have the skills they need. I'm tech savvy, I'm organized, I'm detailed. Yes, they can use that. They need that. But for whatever reason, you know, personality wise, or because of the scope of the project, it's just not fun for me. It's not challenging for me. It's not interesting for me. That means they're not a good fit for me. And I have to remember that I have every right to not do a project that I don't want to do. Just because I can doesn't mean I have to. It's important to remember.
Robert, you want to ask your questions now?
Yeah. Give me a second.
These are awesome questions.
Okay, so during your time working at a consult at the Golden I guess as your time with Golden Consulting, what lessons have you learned that like you carry around in your day-to-day life?
Definitely a couple of things I've already touched on are my number one. So collaboration over competition. That's probably number one for me. And the concept of giver's gain, which means give freely of yourself, and it will come back to you in a kind of a karmic way, I guess. That's probably number one. And then number two is drawing boundaries, deciding what you want your life to be like. And there's a meme that says this, and I just love it. It's like decide what you want your life to be and say no to everything that's not that. And that's the ultimate freedom of having a company of your own, is I get to choose. I'm not dictated. I'm not told what I need to do. There are certain things I really should do, like file my taxes that aren't fun. You know, there are certain things you have to do and you should do them. But ultimately, you really get to choose what your daily life looks like. And every client you take on feeds into what the bigger picture is of your life and how you grow and develop and what your business becomes and what you become. The third thing is that I am intrinsically linked to my business, that my business is me. And that was probably the most surprising thing I found when I started my company, because working for someone else for a very long time, I felt like there was my personal life and there was my business life, and they were separate somehow. And they had to be for my mental health. I couldn't be someone else's business walking around. But as soon as I started my company, I realized that it really was an extension of me, and everything I do reflects on the business and vice versa, which was really actually empowering. That, you know, I don't have that work and personal life separation anymore. It's a really nice blend, and it makes life more enjoyable overall.
All right. My second question is, has there ever been a time where you had to decline despite your gut feeling that you should help them?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's more like because of my gut feeling, I had to decline them. Like logically, they were a good fit. I should be doing this work. This technically falls under my purview. Like if you look at my website, yes, that's what I do. But I've definitely still, based on my instincts, had to say, and you know, start with the instincts and then start to, you know, figure out from there the logical reason why I'm feeling that way. Reasons why I've had to turn down work is because the communication was going to be a pain, for whatever reason. Like it wasn't a good fit personality wise, or they weren't tech savvy. Like these are barriers. Like a lot of what I do is very techy. I need them to be on that level with me. And I've also had to turn people down because the project just didn't inspire me for whatever reason. But it's more like I go against my gut more than I should. And that's a real lesson for all of us. Actually, we all really should be listening to our gut instincts pretty much all the time.
Yeah. All right. And then lastly, while working at the Golden Consulting, what stresses have you gained or lost?
So like what stresses me out in the business?
Yeah.
So let's see, the pile on. You know, there isn't someone else managing your schedule. So you can say yes to too many things or crowd in projects just because that's how they fall. You know, with events particularly, there are crunch times. So the first month is a crunch time. You're getting the marketing out, you're getting the website up, all that stuff. Then the last 2 weeks are crunch time because you're organizing people and training people how to do what they need to do for the conference or for the event. And you're making sure that everyone's ready. So, you know, I would say that there are some unavoidable stressors in the work because of time, but I would say I've become very skilled at time blocking and time management in general, and deciding and prioritizing. So what needs to get done today? What really could just happen next week because there's other priorities? And so running a business, I don't think no matter what your company is really a constant process of prioritizing and reprioritizing. So once you get a handle on that, the stress can be definitely reduced.
Got it.
We have a couple, oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
We have a couple group questions to ask you. So, hold on. I'm looking at your website right now. I'm looking at the portfolio. Is this all the people you've worked with in the year and a half?
Well, there are some projects not on there because they're duplicates. Like I've done multiple events that were similar. I think there are probably a few clients that are not on there because I just don't really show as a testimonial very pretty. There's something an image associated with it, but that's probably 75% of them on the website.
Yeah. And how much of your business is actually from the repeat clients and how much is it from new clients?
That's a good question. I would say it's about 50-50. Yeah, because I get a lot of referrals from clients too. So it kind of spreads out in this like glob of a way. I work with people once, they call me again in another year, or it could be next month. It really just depends on the client. I definitely have a couple of clients. I have 2 clients actually that I am their ongoing operations manager. So that's like a carryover from the initial iteration of my business. So that's repeated work every month. It continues on. And then there are certain events that happen 1 to 2 times a year that continue on each from year to year. So those are repeat clients. But I would say I get a new client probably once every few months, like brand new. Right.
And what have you tried that has blown up in your face, or what has worked the best?
Not sure how to answer that question. Things that have issues of like marketing or like attracting clients.
Well, like, has there been anything you've planned that just didn't work out? Like, this is a hard question to word, but what has been tried and what has worked and what has not? Like,
well, being that I'm doing a lot more online events, there's a tech element, and that can blow up in anyone's face, no matter how good you are at any time. So I would say that's something that you gotta really wrangle and try to get all the variables you possibly can out of the equation. So I would say the tech element in terms of events particularly is something that has caused me trouble. Now, nothing yet has been like a blow up in my face, flat out failure. You know, I don't think anything has to be a failure as long as you just keep rolling with it and keep trying. You know, it's kind of like a you know, one of those memes or quotes, but like, you know, you don't really fail until you stop trying. And I think that's really true. I think that clients will trust you as long as they know that, yeah, you're human, you're going to mess up, but you're not going to give up. You're going to keep going. So I would say I haven't had any epic failures yet, but I've definitely had a bunch of small failures where little things, the slide just comes down, or, you know, the Zoom gets kind of messed up and like the bandwidth gets messed up and things, you know, stall. I mean, you know what? Those things happen. I think people get it. But in terms of like overall my business and big failures, I think every single thing that has gone right or wrong has been a learning opportunity. So it's hard to see anything as a complete failure.
All right. That's all the questions I got. Anyone else?
I think we're pretty set on all the questions. You answered quite a bit, obviously. So
sure, no problem. So is there anything I can help with that kind of gets to the heart of what you need to make your job easier in this project? Like, is there like, yeah, I understand you might come in kind of expecting certain answers, or, you know, like looking for some certain answers that kind of direct you. Like, is there anything in your lesson plan that like I can speak to that, you know, I haven't said?
So like one of our main assignments for for like when choosing our business is to come up with like a business model, environment and like value proposition canvas, which I don't expect you to like fully understand or whatever, you know.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I didn't go to business school, so I will say I don't have that like refined background of like I know how to do a business plan, but I tend to be a little more loose. I tend to, and that's my personality, that I want to be able to grow and change, and I don't really want to pigeonhole myself. And I think if I personally set specific goals, like I want to make this much money per month, I don't think that would really encapsulate what I'm really going for, because my goals are actually not really financial. Freedom is number one for me, and being able to just have fun is really important for me. But at the same time, I think that it is very beneficial to learn those baseline skills about like what a business is. And I think like larger businesses, I think of like manufacturing companies, people who have a lot of employees, that kind of framework is really important. But I will admit that that's not something I employ in my business.
Yeah, that's I'm not sure. Halima, do you have anything else to say?
I guess we're just thinking of like how to create like a business model for Golden Consulting in a way. How would you say we could maybe better our project, like while trying to create like a business model environment or like a business canvas for Golden Consulting?
So so they want you to learn about my business and then create for yourself your interpretation of a business model for what I do. So then I would say for you, focus on the event coordination. It's a little more direct. Don't worry about the operations side. Just focusing on the events and how would one grow an event business, which is actually pretty straightforward. And it's a tried and true model. There are plenty of event companies out there. So, I think financial projections, you could just I'm not trying to do your work for you, but I think, I would have no problem with you taking liberties and kind of, it sounds like part of the work is understanding how someone else runs their business, but then saying, okay, how would I do it?
Right.
So I think that's actually a pretty fun project.
Yes. That was my only question. Does anybody else have other questions about the project?
I think we're good. I think we're good. Thank you for obviously answering all of our stuff.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah.
I have another question, but it has nothing to do with our project.
Okay.
Okay, so I've been trying to like reach out to, well, not necessarily reach out, but like trying to find people I could connect with. I guess I'm really passionate about like building water wells like internationally. I was talking to my business professor about this, and we were just thinking of like people that I could reach out to right now. I am in my sophomore year, but just to kind of like prepare myself and like the steps that I could take like in the future. Yeah.
So is that kind of like nonprofit type work where it's really community building, that kind of work? So building. So we say water wells, you mean just like wells in the ground, right? Just like providing.
Yes, like nationally.
Nationally or internationally?
Internationally.
Okay, gotcha. Well, let me definitely think on that and think if I can think of someone that I don't know on top of my head who actually does that, but that doesn't mean there isn't someone out there who knows someone who does that. So let me think about that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So like providing fresh water and
clean water and building them internationally. But I just wasn't sure as to like who to reach out to or like the kind of sources out there like locally in Burlington. And I feel like we just don't have any businesses that particularly like focus on building water wells internationally.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. Well, Burlington's interesting. I feel like a lot of businesses in Burlington are serving Burlington people, and we obviously have a public water system. So, that's maybe why there aren't many people, but I mean, I would actually start a little bigger than Burlington, I guess, and then work your way down to Burlington. You know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
probably lots of companies who do that work or fund that work that are international or national companies who do that work. And they might have satellite offices in Vermont, or they might not. That'd be in Maine, that'd be in New Hampshire. But I actually would look more so like Massachusetts, like bigger states in a sense, like with more industry that might do more of that. And I would say, especially with COVID, with the Zoom environment and, everyone's online, you really could reach out to anyone. They don't have to be in Burlington necessarily. So I don't know anyone in Burlington specifically, but I would actually start big and then whittle down more local.
Right. I was thinking of the United Nations, but I just wasn't sure as to like someone that I knew that could like connect me to somebody. But I guess I have to continue doing my research.
Yeah, I have to say I've never actually looked into that field, so I'm not a strong resource on that. But now that you've given me that thought, I'll definitely keep thinking about it and see if I can find someone who might connect you with that industry. Yeah, good for you.
Thank you. I'd love to like set up another meeting, maybe one-on-one.
Sure, absolutely. You have my link. Feel free to use it freely for setting up appointments. I find it's just a lot easier than trying to go back and forth. So, yeah, feel free. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, you're so welcome. Well, good luck on your project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have
Have a
a
good
nice
day.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.